Hi, I'm Eva. Nothing prepares you for the day your own sister humiliates you in front of everyone and steals your fiancé in the process. But that wasn't the worst part. What she didn't count on was me taking back what was mine. The house deed, the inheritance, everything she thought she could take from me. It's time I show her just who's in control now. Hook 2. You won't believe how far my sister went to ruin me. She lied, manipulated, and used everyone, including me. But here's the twist. I took back the one thing that mattered most, her house deed. And trust me, it wasn't just about property. It was about reclaiming my life, a life I was ready to fight for. But now everything's about to change. Combined. Hook. Hi, I'm Eva. Imagine being humiliated in front of everyone by your own sister and then watching her steal your fiancé. That's exactly what happened to me. But the worst part, the long hidden truth that led to this moment, the betrayal that had been brewing for years. She thought she could take my life from me, but I took back the house deed, the one thing that could finally free me from her grip. What happens next will shock you. I had spent my whole life trying to please my family. I guess it's what you do when you're the younger sister, the one always overlooked, always reliable but never exceptional. While Lila, my older sister, was the radiant one, the spontaneous one, the one who could walk into a room and light it up, I was the one who kept everything in place, never the one to make a scene, always the steady one. It was a role I had learned to play early on, and somehow it stuck. Growing up, it felt like my achievements never mattered. Lila got the praise for being beautiful, for being charming, for being bold. And there I was, earning good grades, getting into a prestigious college, landing a job in a top firm. But none of that was ever enough. My success was always secondary, always just a footnote in Lila's story. My parents were proud, but it was always a quiet pride, never the kind that made me feel seen. Now, here I was, 34 years old, and still playing the same role. Still the invisible one in my own family. I had everything in life, except their attention. My work was thriving, but no one seemed to care about that. They cared about Lila, about her charm, about her wild, carefree life. And me? I was just the reliable one. Nothing more. Tonight, I had made a decision. I was going to show them. I had been planning my birthday dinner for weeks, carefully choosing the venue, the food, the dress. It was a place that would make them see me. It was a luxurious restaurant in Seattle's elite dining district, somewhere my family couldn't ignore. I had spent $3,000 on my dress, a deep red silk that would make me stand out, a dress that screamed success. This was my moment. I was going to make them see me for who I had become. I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my dress one last time. My heart raced, but I wasn't sure if it was excitement or fear. I wanted them to be proud of me, to see me as more than just the dependable sister. I wanted them to look at me like they looked at Lila, like I was worthy of their attention. When I arrived at the restaurant, I could already feel the weight of anticipation. This was going to be the night that changed everything. I was going to finally show them who I was. The thought of finally being noticed, being seen, gave me a strange sense of hope, mixed with nerves. I hoped this dinner would show them that I was more than just the girl who always played by the rules. As I waited for my family to arrive, I couldn't help but feel the tinge of doubt creeping in. Would they appreciate it? Or would this just be another night where Lila would steal the spotlight? The questions circled in my mind, but I pushed them aside. Tonight was about me. Then they arrived. Lila walked in first, as always, the one who captured everyone's attention the moment she entered the room. She was late, of course, and as usual, she looked like she had just stepped out of a magazine, tall, radiant, confident. I felt the knot in my stomach tighten as she glided into the room. I watched her smile at my parents, her eyes sparkling with that effortless charm that always seemed to make her the center of attention. But it was my mother's reaction that hit me hardest. She greeted Lila with a hug, but when I stepped forward, hoping for at least a warm acknowledgement, I got a half-hearted smile and a distracted wave. The same smile I had gotten 1,000 times before. Lila, on the other hand, was showered with compliments. "You look amazing, honey," my mom gushed. You're absolutely stunning. I stood there, biting my lip, trying not to show how much it hurt. I had planned this night to prove that I wasn't just the steady one, that I had something more to offer, but it was like my efforts didn't even matter. I glanced around the table, seeing my father's indifferent gaze, my mother fawning over Lila. They couldn't even acknowledge the time, the effort, the money I had put into this evening, and in that moment, I knew. This night wasn't going to change anything. As dinner went on, I tried to keep the conversation light, but the tension in the air was palpable. Every comment from Lila was a dig, subtle but sharp, cutting right to the core. "You always were the practical one, huh?" she remarked, eyeing my dress. "But, you look nice." The words were laced with sarcasm, but she said them with that signature smile of hers, the one that made everyone believe she meant no harm. I could feel my blood boiling, but I kept my composure. I wasn't going to let her ruin this for me, but the cracks were already forming, and I couldn't stop them from showing. The evening that I had planned with such hope was slipping through my fingers. The real moment, though, came when the disaster struck. Lila, in her usual careless fashion, knocked over her cranberry drink. The splash of liquid hit my dress, and before I could even process it, she made her move. "Now you look as cheap as you really are," she said, her voice dripping with satisfaction. I froze. My breath caught in my chest, and I could feel the heat rising to my face. The room went silent, every eye on me. Lila smirked, clearly enjoying the scene she had just created. My mother laughed, a cold, sharp laugh that only made the humiliation worse. My father stayed silent, as always. I couldn't believe it. The one night I had hoped for some recognition, some validation, and this is what I got, a cheap shot in front of everyone. I glanced at my friends, who were sitting across from me. They looked uncomfortable, but they didn't know what to do. The damage was done. I had been humiliated in front of my family, and they didn't even care. I felt like I was going to break, but somehow, I didn't. I held it together. I had to. But the pain, the betrayal, the anger, it was all simmering just below the surface, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. I stood there for a moment, my hands clenched tightly around the edge of the bathroom sink. The face staring back at me wasn't the same one I'd seen just a few hours ago. That woman had walked into the restaurant, hopeful, ready to prove to her family who she was. But now, standing alone in the quiet of the bathroom, I couldn't even recognize the person I had been. I had always played by the rules, the reliable one, the one who always took care of things. I never caused any trouble. I did my job, I stayed out of the way, and I made sure everyone else was happy. And how had I been repaid? My mother's cold indifference, my father's silence, and Lila's cruelty. It wasn't just the cranberry drink on my dress that humiliated me. It was the years of quiet suffering. The years I had been the invisible sister, the one who was always overlooked, never truly seen for who I was. But now, something had changed. I could feel it deep inside me, a simmering anger that hadn't been there before. The humiliation still stung, but it was turning into something else, a burning resolve. I wasn't going to let this go. I wasn't going to let them keep walking all over me. No more. I took a deep breath, staring at my reflection one last time. I wasn't that quiet, passive girl anymore. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. I was done being the good girl, the one who kept the peace. I was done being invisible. Now, I was going to make them see me. I was going to take back control. The idea came to me in a flash. Lila had been the center of attention her whole life. She had everything, it seemed. But there was one thing I could take back. The house deed. That house wasn't hers to keep. It had been in my name for years, ever since our parents had made me the one to take care of all their financial affairs. They'd always favored Lila, but that house, my house, was something they couldn't take from me. I'd let Lila have her spotlight for too long. Now, it was time for me to take what was rightfully mine. I contacted my lawyer first thing the next morning. I had been planning this for a while, but after last night, I knew it was time to take action. The lawyer confirmed that the house deed was indeed under my name, that I had full rights to it, and that I could move forward with reclaiming it. The excitement bubbled inside me. This was the first step. The first step in a much bigger plan, but it wasn't going to be easy. I couldn't just walk up to Lila and demand the deed. She was too smart for that. No, I had to be careful. I had to use my resources, my knowledge, and my intelligence to outsmart her. I needed a strategy. I took a moment to gather my thoughts, mapping out a plan in my head. Step 1 was already taken care of. I had the legal backing to reclaim what was mine. Step 2 was finding a way to confront Lila without her suspecting a thing. Step 3, well, that would come later. I wasn't going to rush this. I had been patient for too long. I could wait for the right moment. I found myself smiling for the first time in days. The plan had taken shape. I had a purpose now. I wasn't just waiting for something to happen anymore. I was making it happen. For the next few days, I kept myself busy. I researched everything I could about Lila's finances. I dug into her spending habits, trying to figure out what made her think she could take everything without consequences. The more I dug, the more I found. Lila had been living beyond her means for years. Her reckless spending, her manipulative behavior, it all made sense now. She had been using our family for her own gain, and I had let it happen. I had always believed Lila's charm was genuine, that she was just misunderstood, but now I knew better. Her charm was a mask. A mask that had allowed her to control everyone around her, to manipulate our parents, and to get whatever she wanted. But that mask was slipping, and I was going to be the one to expose it. With each new piece of information I uncovered, I felt more and more empowered. It was like I had finally found the key to the puzzle that had been my life for so long. And the more I understood, the more I realized how much I had been held back by my own silence. Lila had taken so much from me, and now it was my turn to take something back. But I couldn't do it all at once. I knew that. The time had to be right. I had to confront Lila on my terms, not hers. I had to make sure I was in control of the situation, that I had all the facts before I made my move. That's when I decided it was time to make the first move. I reached out to Lila, asking if she wanted to meet. I kept it casual, made it seem like I just wanted to talk about old times. I wasn't in a rush. I knew the confrontation would come, but it needed to happen at the right time. When we met, Lila was as arrogant as ever. She sat across from me, her smug smile never leaving her face. She seemed so sure of herself, so untouchable. But I wasn't going to be intimidated anymore. This time, I was in control. We talked about family dynamics, the way things had always been. I made sure to drop hints about the house deed, casually mentioning how I had always been the one to take care of things. Lila didn't bite. She brushed me off, as always, but I didn't mind. The seeds had been planted. She didn't take me seriously now, but she would. I would make sure of it. As the conversation ended, I could feel the frustration rising within me. She had dismissed me again, as if I were just some background player in her life. But I held my ground. I wasn't going to back down. I wasn't going to let her treat me like that anymore. When I left, the weight of the situation hit me harder than I expected. I was still the reliable one, the one who always took care of everyone else, but now, I wasn't going to let that define me. I had a plan, and I wasn't going to let anything or anyone stand in my way. I spoke to my mother the next day, hoping for some support, but once again, I found myself being dismissed. She told me to forgive Lila for the harmless mistake at dinner. My frustration grew with every word. It was the same thing every time. No matter what I did, I was never seen for who I truly was. But now I knew. I wasn't going to be their scapegoat anymore. This time, I was going to take control of my own life. I wasn't just going to keep the peace. I wasn't going to let them treat me like a doormat. I began to distance myself. I stopped being the one who bailed them out, the one who always came through. I stopped lending money. I stopped covering for Lila. I let her fend for herself. It felt good. For the first time in years, I was doing something for me. But of course, it didn't take long for my family to notice. They started calling me selfish, accusing me of trying to destroy the family. Lila and my mother teamed up to paint me as the bad sister, the one causing trouble. The pressure was building, but I refused to back down. I knew what I was doing, and this time, I was in control. As I stood my ground, I could feel the weight of everything shifting. This was the point of no return. I wasn't going to be their scapegoat anymore. The next few days passed in a blur. I went through the motions of daily life, handling work, going out with friends, pretending like everything was fine. But inside, I was a storm waiting to break. The humiliation from the dinner still lingered in my mind, like a constant reminder that I had been pushed too far. I was tired of being the reliable one, the one who always kept the peace, while everyone else took what they wanted and left me with nothing. I spent hours in my apartment, staring at my reflection in the mirror, trying to figure out who I was now. The woman who had walked into that restaurant so many days ago, hoping to be seen and appreciated, was gone. That version of me was weak, desperate for validation. But I wasn't desperate anymore. I was done being invisible. I was done being a doormat for my family's convenience. This wasn't just about the house deed anymore. This was about reclaiming my power. This was about stepping out of the shadow of my sister, my parents, and everyone else who had always thought they could control me. I had spent too many years living under their expectations, and now it was time to make a change. As I sat at my kitchen table, going over my next steps, I felt a sense of clarity that had eluded me for years. I had always been so careful, so afraid of stepping out of line. But now, I could see it all. The house deed was just the beginning. If I was going to make a real difference in my life, I had to go all in. I took a deep breath, steadied myself, and picked up my phone. I had to make this official. I needed legal advice, and I wasn't going to wait any longer. I dialed my lawyer's number, my hands slightly trembling as I waited for him to pick up. The moment the call connected, I knew it was time to stop hesitating. "Ava," he answered. "What's on your mind?" "I need to talk about the house," I said, my voice steady, determined. It's time I took it back. We discussed the steps I would need to take to reclaim the deed, and I felt a rush of satisfaction as I heard the confirmation that I had the legal right to do so. No more waiting, no more playing by the rules of a system that didn't care about me. I had the power now, and I wasn't going to let it slip through my fingers. That night, I lay in bed, my mind racing with plans. I couldn't afford to be impulsive. I needed to be patient, methodical, and smart. Lila wouldn't just hand over the deed, and I knew she'd fight to keep control of the house. But she didn't know what I had on her. I had the upper hand now, and I wasn't going to lose it. The next morning, I woke up early, my mind already working through the details of what I had to do. I started gathering information. Lila's spending habits, her debt, the things she had hidden from the family. I had to know everything if I was going to outsmart her. It was time to put everything I had learned about her manipulation to use. I knew that Lila would never back down. She never had. But I had learned her weaknesses. I had watched how she used charm and manipulation to get what she wanted. And now, I had the tools to fight back. I just had to be careful. I couldn't let my emotions cloud my judgment. If I was going to win, I had to play this game better than she ever had. Over the next few days, I kept my distance from the family. They hadn't noticed my absence yet, and I didn't want them to. They were still stuck in their little world, focused on Lila and her never-ending drama. But I was done playing along. If they wanted to keep living in that bubble, they could. But I wasn't going to stay in it with them. I spent time with my friends, people who actually cared about me. For the first time in years, I was doing something for myself. I wasn't always available to pick up the slack for my family. I wasn't going to be their safety net anymore, and it felt good. For once, I was living for me. But as the days went on, I felt the tension building. My family hadn't noticed yet, but I could feel their disapproval hanging in the air, even if they didn't say anything. They were waiting for me to come crawling back, like I always had. They expected me to fix their problems, to make everything right again. But I wasn't going to be their pawn any longer. And then, just as I was starting to feel the weight of it all, Lila called. Her voice, smooth as always, was laced with a fake sweetness that made my blood boil. She asked how I was doing, as if nothing had happened, as if the events of that night hadn't just shattered everything. I didn't respond right away. I was silent, letting the seconds drag on. It was a power move, and I knew it. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of a quick response. Finally, I spoke. "I'm fine. I said, my voice flat. I've been thinking about a lot of things. Lila's voice softened, though I could hear the underlying challenge. What things? I think we need to talk, I said, carefully choosing my words. About the house. There was a long pause. I could almost hear her mind working as she processed my words, but she quickly recovered. Oh, Eva, you know how it is. Let's just let things go. You're overreacting. I clenched my fist, holding back the anger that threatened to spill over. No, Lila. This time, I'm not letting it go. I hung up before she could respond, a feeling of calm determination washing over me. The calm before the storm was over. The game was on now. Later that evening, as I sat in my living room, I received a message from Lila. It was cryptic, as if trying to soften the blow of what was coming. But I wasn't fooled. I knew what she was doing. She was trying to manipulate me, trying to make me feel guilty for standing up for myself. But I wasn't going to back down. I read her message once, then twice, and I smiled. It was time to send my own message, but this one would be different. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Not this time. With a steady hand, I typed a reply, cold and calculated. I knew it would get her attention. I had nothing left to lose. I know what you've been doing, Lila, I wrote. And if you don't come clean about the house, I'll make sure everyone knows this isn't a game anymore. I pressed send, watching the message disappear into the void. And just like that, the calm was over. The storm was coming, and I was ready for it. The night before the confrontation, I could hardly sleep. My mind was racing with a mix of emotions, anger, fear, and determination. It wasn't just about the house anymore. It was about proving to myself that I was not the weak, invisible sister. I had allowed my family to treat me as insignificant for far too long, and now I was done. The message from Lila came just before I went to bed. It was casual, almost too casual, as if she was trying to pretend nothing had happened. Hey, Eva, it read. I know we've had some tension, but let's talk. I miss you, and I don't want things to be awkward. My stomach twisted as I read the message. I could feel her manipulation from a mile away. This wasn't a gesture of goodwill. No, this was Lila's way of trying to regain control over me, as she always did. I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. Instead, I spent the night reviewing everything I had learned, every piece of evidence I had gathered, and the plan I had set into motion. I needed to stay calm. I needed to keep my emotions in check. This confrontation was about more than just the house. It was about reclaiming my power, my self-worth, and the right to be seen for who I truly was. I could no longer afford to be passive. As the night wore on, I prepared myself for what was to come. There was a certain clarity in knowing that no matter how the confrontation played out, I would never be the same. I was ready to face the storm. The day of the confrontation arrived. It was a family gathering at my parents' house, a place where we all came together for special occasions. The irony wasn't lost on me. It was here, in this very house, that I had been overlooked and ignored for so long. When I arrived, the atmosphere was thick with tension. No one had any idea what was about to unfold. Lila greeted me with her usual false cheer, a smile so wide it almost looked painful. She acted like nothing had happened, as though she hadn't humiliated me in front of everyone just days earlier. Her behavior only served to fuel my anger. There was something deeply unsettling about how she could just pretend it all away, like I didn't matter, like I was just a character in her little drama that she could discard when it suited her. The rest of the family was oblivious to the storm brewing. They were busy with their own conversations, acting as though everything was normal, but I could feel the weight of their expectations. They didn't know it yet, but everything was about to change. I could see how they looked at me. Quiet, reliable Eva. The one who always kept her mouth shut. The one who could be counted on to put up with their bullshit. But today, I wasn't that Eva. Today, I was going to take back what was mine. The tension built as the evening wore on. I could see Lila watching me, her eyes darting over to where I was standing, and then quickly looking away when I met her gaze. She knew what was coming. Finally, after hours of pretending, I couldn't take it anymore. The words I had rehearsed in my mind so many times before slipped out, but this time they came with the force of years of frustration behind them. Lila, I said, my voice steady but low. It's time we talked. You've taken enough from me. The house deed, the way you've manipulated everything for years. Lila blinked, playing innocent. What are you talking about? I don't know what you mean. I wasn't about to let her off that easy. I pulled out the evidence, the photos, the text messages, the bank statements. You've been using the family against me. You've been taking what isn't yours, and I'm done. I'm done playing nice. She scoffed, shaking her head as if this was all some kind of joke. You're exaggerating, Eva. You always have been. This is ridiculous. I felt my anger rise, but I held it in check. I wasn't going to let her control this narrative. I was going to expose her, and I wasn't going to feel guilty about it. You've always been the golden child, I said, my voice sharp. But not anymore. I'm taking back control, Lila. The house is just the beginning. The family had gathered around us by then, sensing the change in the air. Some of them were looking at Lila, others at me, but no one said anything at first. It was like they were waiting for someone to decide what was going to happen next. My mother was the first to speak up, though she sounded more defensive than concerned. Eva, what are you doing? You're making a scene. Lila is your sister, for God's sake. I felt the heat rise in my chest. My mother, once again, was defending Lila. It was like she couldn't see how unfair everything had been. No, Mom, I said, keeping my voice controlled. This isn't about Lila being my sister. This is about what's right. You've always taken her side, and I'm done. I'm not the problem here. The silence that followed was deafening. The rest of the family stood there, stunned, unsure of how to react. Some looked at Lila, others at me, but no one spoke. I could see the rift forming right in front of me, and I realized then that no matter what happened next, things would never go back to the way they were. Lila wasn't going to go down without a fight. She straightened her back, her eyes narrowing, and then she unleashed her charm. Everyone, you know Eva. She's always been the dramatic one. She's exaggerating everything because she's jealous. I wasn't fooled by her act anymore. She had always known how to manipulate the family, how to make them believe her version of things. But this time, I wasn't going to let her control the narrative. I stood tall, meeting her gaze, refusing to let her turn the tables on me. This isn't about jealousy, Lila. This is about standing up for myself. I'm not going to let you use this family against me anymore. The tension in the room was palpable. Some of the family members looked uneasy, but no one dared to speak up. I realized that, in this moment, I was truly alone. But that didn't scare me anymore. It only made me stronger. And then, just as I thought I might be getting through to them, Lila made her final move. She leveled her gaze at me and said, "You're unstable, Eva. You always have been. Everyone knows it. You're just making things worse." I could feel the anger bubbling up inside me. She had crossed a line. She was trying to destroy my credibility, to make me the villain in her twisted little world. But I wasn't going to back down. Not now. Not ever. I took a deep breath, holding my ground. You don't get to make that call anymore, Lila. Not with me. I could feel the weight of everyone's eyes on me as I made my decision. This was it. There was no going back. I wasn't going to let her tear me down anymore. I'm done playing your game, I said, my voice steady. If I have to, I'll take this to the authorities. I'm not afraid of the consequences. The house deed isn't the only thing I'm fighting for here. It's my dignity, my self-worth, and my place in this family. I'm done being treated like I don't matter. The silence that followed was thick with tension. I had laid it all out there. There was no more hiding. I was ready to fight for what was mine. Just as I thought I had everything under control, my phone rang. I glanced at the screen, and my heart skipped a beat. It was him, my fiancé. The last thing I needed right now. I picked up the call, trying to stay calm. Hello? Eva? His voice was shaky. I'm here. I'm at the family event. I think you need to know something. I froze, my heart racing. What was he doing here? What had he found out? I was just about to confront Lila, I said, my voice barely a whisper. But now, I'm not sure what to believe anymore. The weight of everything I'd done crashed down on me like a freight train. It was one thing to confront Lila, to expose the lies, but it was another thing entirely to face the consequences of my choices. The house deed, the manipulation, the family betrayal, I had thrown everything into chaos, and now I had to live with it. My mind wandered back to the countless times I'd kept quiet. Times when I allowed Lila to take the spotlight, to undermine me, to manipulate my family into siding with her. Every time, I swallowed my anger. I let the injustice slide, convincing myself that I didn't want to rock the boat. But now, standing on the precipice of this confrontation, I knew there was no turning back. This was my moment to take control, to no longer let myself be treated like an afterthought. I thought about the power of my voice, the strength of my decisions. But was I truly ready to take that final step? To let the world know what had been going on for years? I had spent so long being the good, quiet daughter, the responsible one, the one who never caused any trouble. It was easy to fall into that role, to let others dictate how I should behave. But now, I was standing in the eye of the storm. If I went public, there would be no going back. This wasn't just about the house anymore. This was about my dignity. My family had taken so much from me, and it was time to take it back. I couldn't keep pretending I was okay. I wasn't okay. And that was fine, because for the first time in my life, I was standing up for myself. Lila's message came in the morning, but I wasn't fooled. She was trying to play the victim again. "I'm sorry for everything that's happened. Can we just talk? I hate the tension between us." I rolled my eyes. It was a classic move, one she'd used countless times before. She wanted me to back down. She wanted to manipulate me, to make me feel guilty for wanting to fight for what was mine. It sickened me to think how long I'd put up with it, how long I'd let her win, let her ruin my life and turn everyone against me. I wasn't that person anymore. I didn't respond. There was no point. I didn't need to keep reliving the past with her. The decision had already been made. I was going to confront her, expose the truth, and take back control. No more hiding, no more silence. The family gathering was set for the weekend. I could feel the weight of it even as I walked into the house. It was always the same. Everyone pretending everything was fine, hiding behind smiles and casual conversation. But today, it was different. Today, I wasn't going to be quiet. Today, I was going to be heard. I saw Lila before she saw me. She was sitting in the living room, laughing with my parents, her laughter high and fake. I could almost feel the heat radiating from her, her need for attention. As I walked into the room, she turned and flashed me a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Ava, it's good to see you," she said, like nothing had happened, like she hadn't just publicly humiliated me. "Good to see you too, Lila," I replied, my voice flat. I wasn't playing her game anymore. She didn't even flinch at my tone. The tension was building. I could feel it in the air, thick and palpable. I knew what I had to do. It was time. I waited for the right moment, and when it came, I couldn't hold back anymore. "Lila, I'm done pretending," I said, my voice cutting through the hum of the room. "I'm done being the quiet one, the one you can manipulate. You took something from me that I'm not going to let you keep any longer." Lila's eyes flashed, but she remained calm. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, trying to play innocent. But I wasn't buying it. "I'm talking about the house deed," I said, stepping closer. "The one you've been hiding in your name. The one you've been keeping from me." She shifted uncomfortably in her seat, but I wasn't backing down. "You've manipulated everyone in this family, Lila," I continued, "and I'm not going to let you get away with it anymore." The room went silent. My parents looked at each other, confused and unsure of what to say. But Lila wasn't about to be the one caught off guard. "This is ridiculous, Ava," she scoffed. "You're making a scene over nothing. You're just jealous because I've had more attention than you. This is all in your head." It was almost laughable how easily she dismissed everything, how she tried to twist it all around. "I'm not jealous, Lila," I said, my voice now steady and cold. "I'm angry. Angry at how you've used this family for your own benefit, how you've manipulated everyone around you, and how you've made me feel like nothing." but I'm not letting you do it anymore. You've taken too much from me, and I'm taking it back. The family was still silent, watching us, waiting for someone to speak. My mother finally broke the silence, but her voice was shaky. Ava, you don't understand. Lila didn't mean any harm. She's always been the one everyone's been drawn to. You've got to let it go. I felt my heart drop. My mother, once again, defending Lila. It wasn't a surprise, but it still stung. No, Mom, I said, keeping my voice calm but firm. I'm done letting her walk all over me. You've always taken her side, and it's time for me to stand up for myself. The words felt heavy as they left my mouth. I knew this was a turning point. Lila wasn't done yet. She wasn't going to let this go easily. You're overreacting, Eva. You've always been the one to make things worse. You're just upset because you didn't get your way. My hands clenched into fists. She was trying to gaslight me again, but I wasn't falling for it. I stood my ground. No, Lila. This isn't about getting my way. This is about fairness. This is about me finally being seen, being heard. You've been using me for years, and I'm done. Lila's face twisted with anger, but she quickly masked it with a false smile. You're making a mistake, Ava. You're just jealous of me like always. I could see her trying to regain control, trying to shift the narrative, but I wasn't giving her that power anymore. I'm not the one who's been lying and manipulating Lila. I'm not the one who's been playing the victim. You are. Her jaw clenched, but she didn't say anything else. I could see her mind racing, but I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me falter. I was done. Just as the silence settled again, I turned to my parents. You can choose to side with her, I said, my voice quiet but firm. But know this, I will never let you use me again. The room seemed to hold its breath, but I didn't wait for a response. I turned and left. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their validation. I was done being their pawn. The moment I stepped outside, my phone rang. I glanced at the screen and saw his name. My fiancé. What's wrong? I asked, already knowing something was off. I just got here, he said. I think you need to know something. I felt the blood rush to my head, but I didn't say anything. My heart raced as I took a deep breath. I was just about to confront Lila, I said, but now I'm not sure what to believe anymore. The day had arrived. I could feel the weight of it settling on me like a burden I could no longer ignore. The air felt thicker, heavier than it ever had before. I had spent weeks preparing, weeks reflecting on everything that had led to this moment. The confrontations, the lies, the manipulations. And now, finally, it was time to break the silence. I paced around the house, going over my plan in my head once more. The evidence was clear, irrefutable. The photos, the messages, the financial records, it was all there, and now I had to stand firm. I had made the choice. I wasn't just confronting Lila anymore. I was confronting the lies, the years of resentment, the family I had given everything for, only to be pushed aside. I wasn't going to let that happen anymore. I had to take back control, not just of the house deed, but of my life. As I prepared, a calmness settled over me. The rage I'd felt earlier was now replaced with something far more powerful. Clarity. I could see the truth clearly now, and no matter how much my family tried to deny it, it wouldn't change what I knew. Lila had always been the golden child, the beautiful, charming one who could do no wrong, but not anymore. The tables were turning, and this time, I was in control. I called the family together, knowing that I needed witnesses. The gathering was supposed to be casual, but I wasn't going to let this moment slip away unnoticed. I told myself that I could handle this. This time, I wouldn't back down. I wouldn't let her twist the truth like she always did. When everyone arrived, Lila was the first to greet me with her usual fake smile, the one she wore like a mask. It was the same smile that had gotten her out of trouble so many times before. The same smile that hid the cruelty beneath. Ava, it's good to see you, she said, but her voice was laced with condescension. I nodded, my jaw clenched. There was no time for pleasantries. I was done with the small talk. Lila, we need to talk, I said, my voice steady, but carrying the weight of everything that had led up to this moment. About what? She asked, trying to sound casual, but I could see the tension in her eyes. She knew exactly what I was about to say. She just hoped I wouldn't say it. The house deed, I said, locking eyes with her. The one you've been hiding from me all these years, the one you've used to manipulate this family. For a moment, she just stared at me. Then, as expected, she tried to shrug it off. Eva, you're overreacting. It's not what you think. I never meant for things to get out of hand. Her words were like a dagger to my chest, but I didn't let them show. This was it. I was about to reveal everything. I'm not overreacting, Lila, I said, taking a step closer to her. I've spent too many years being quiet, being the good one. I've watched you manipulate everyone, including our parents. I've had enough. Lila's face twisted into something unrecognizable for a moment, but she quickly composed herself. You're being dramatic, she said, her voice rising slightly. You've always been the one to make things difficult. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. I could feel my anger rising again, but I forced myself to stay calm. I wasn't going to let her make me feel small again. I pulled out the evidence I had gathered, the documents, the photos, the messages. You can deny it all you want, but the truth is right here, I said, slapping the papers down in front of her. You've been lying to everyone, using them for your own gain, and I'm done. The room fell silent. I could feel the tension crackling in the air. My parents stood off to the side, unsure of what to say, their eyes darting between Lila and me. I could see the doubt in their eyes, the hesitation. They didn't want to believe the truth, but they could see it now. They had no choice. Lila tried to brush it off, but there was no denying it anymore. You don't know what you're talking about, she snapped, her voice trembling with anger. I did what I had to do. I had no choice. I felt the pressure building in my chest. How many times had I heard that? How many times had I let her manipulate me with her lies? No, Lila, I said, my voice firm. You did what you wanted to do. You've been using everyone, including me, to get ahead, and I'm done being your pawn. Lila took a deep breath, trying to regain her composure. This is ridiculous. You're ruining everything. Can't you see what you're doing to this family? No, Lila, I said, stepping forward. You're the one who ruined this family, not me. You're the one who's been playing everyone for years. The argument escalated quickly. My mother tried to intervene, but it was clear that she was torn. Some of the family members tried to defend Lila, but I could see the hesitation in their eyes. They were beginning to doubt her, and that was enough for me. But the real battle was yet to come. Lila wasn't going to give up without a fight. As I stood there, watching her try to twist everything around, I realized something. I didn't need their approval anymore. I had always been the one trying to make peace, trying to keep everyone happy. But now, I was done. I was fighting for myself. Just when I thought the worst was over, Lila made her final move. She spread new lies about me, tried to discredit me further, and turned the rest of the family against me. But it didn't matter anymore. Her words couldn't touch me. I had faced the truth, and now I was standing tall. But then, just as everything seemed to settle, I got the call. It was from him. I wasn't expecting to hear from him again, and I certainly wasn't ready for what he had to say. But there it was, an invitation that could change everything. I sat in the quiet of my apartment, the weight of the last few months pressing down on me like an anchor. The air around me felt still, almost suffocating, as I reflected on everything that had led me here. The manipulation, the deceit, the years of being the good one, always silent, always overlooked. But now, it was different. I had taken my power back, piece by piece, moment by moment. From the small confrontations to the public revelations, I had slowly shifted the narrative. This was the last step, the final act. I was no longer the person who allowed others to control my story. I was the one calling the shots now. I thought about Lila, the way she had always manipulated everyone around her, the way she had twisted every situation to fit her agenda. But no more. This was my time to finally break free, to stand tall and take control of my life. The emotions hit me in waves. Betrayal, rage, frustration. But beneath it all, there was something else. Empowerment. I had fought for this, and now I was ready to take the final step. There was no turning back. I called Lila, her name flashing on my screen as I stood in front of the mirror. The call was coming, the final confrontation, the moment I had been preparing for. I was ready. I had the evidence, I had the strength, and this time, I wasn't going to back down. Hello? Lila's voice came through, sweet as ever, but I knew better. She was trying to hide the desperation underneath. I need to talk to you, I said, my voice calm but firm. What about? She asked, trying to sound nonchalant. This ends today, Lila. All the lies, all the manipulation, it stops now. There was a pause on the other end. I could hear the flicker of uncertainty in her breath. She knew I wasn't playing around anymore. I don't know what you're talking about, she responded, feigning confusion, but the cracks in her voice gave her away. You do. You've been hiding the house deed from me, playing this game for years, but I'm done. I'm not your pawn anymore. I'm taking control of my life, starting now. We met later that evening at a coffee shop, the place where it all began, the place where we used to laugh, talk about our dreams, back when everything seemed normal. But now, as I sat across from her, everything felt different. Lila walked in, her smile still perfect, her posture still confident, like nothing had changed. She was trying to play it cool, but I could see it in her eyes. She knew this was the end. Eva, she greeted me, her voice laced with false warmth. Enough with the games, I said, cutting her off. You've been lying to me, to Mom and Dad, manipulating everyone for years. I've had enough. Lila's eyes narrowed. You're overreacting, she replied, her voice rising in defense. You don't understand what I've been going through. No, I said, shaking my head. I understand perfectly. You've been getting away with everything, and I've been the one cleaning up your mess. But not anymore. I'm done being the good one. Lila shifted in her seat, clearly uncomfortable. You're being ridiculous, she snapped. This is just jealousy. You've always been jealous of me. I leaned forward, my gaze steady. This isn't about jealousy. It's about respect. I've spent my whole life being ignored, dismissed, made to feel invisible, but I'm not invisible anymore. She recoiled at my words, clearly thrown off balance for the first time in years. I'm done with your lies, Lila, I continued, my voice gaining strength. I have the proof. Everything you've done, everything you've hidden, you can't deny it anymore. Her face paled as I pulled out the papers, the photos, the messages, the evidence I had been collecting for weeks. Lila's eyes flickered with panic. You don't know what you're doing. If you go public with this, it'll destroy everything. Maybe it's time it all came crashing down, I said, my words cutting through the tension in the air. Maybe the truth needs to come out. Her lips trembled as she tried to fight back, but I wasn't backing down this time. You've hurt me. You've hurt Mom and Dad, and I won't let you do it anymore. Lila's face twisted in rage. You don't understand. I did it for us, for this family. You think you can just walk away from all of this? I shook my head, feeling a surge of relief as I spoke the words I'd been holding back for so long. No, Lila. I'm walking away from you, from all of it. The confrontation wasn't over, but I could feel the shift in the room. The family wasn't here, but they were always a part of this. I could hear the echoes of their voices, the silent expectations they had placed on me for years, and as much as I still loved them, I knew that I couldn't stay in this toxic cycle any longer. I stood up, my decision clear. I'm done. I'm moving forward with my life without you. Lila didn't say anything. She just stared at me, a mix of anger and disbelief in her eyes. I could feel the weight of everything I had lost, everything I had fought for, but it was nothing compared to the weight of the freedom I was gaining. As I walked out of the coffee shop, the cold air hit my face, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of peace. The fight wasn't over yet, but I had taken control, and that was all I needed to know. The next day, I sat down with the evidence and made the decision that would change everything. It was time to go public. It was time to let everyone know the truth. I wasn't going to hide anymore. I wasn't going to stay quiet for the sake of family or reputation. I was done being afraid. The truth would set me free. As I sat at my desk, preparing to release the evidence to the world, The doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, I froze. There he was, the man who had been gone for years. And now, he was back. I wasn't expecting to hear from him again, and I certainly wasn't ready for what he had to say. But there it was, an invitation that could change everything. The silence was deafening as I sat on the couch, staring at the wall in front of me. It felt as though everything I had been through, everything I had endured, had led me to this moment. I had been pushed to the edge by years of manipulation, betrayal, and injustice. But now I had a choice, one final decision to make. I had spent so long fighting for everyone else's approval, for everyone else's peace. But this time, it was different. This time, I was fighting for myself. I knew the confrontation with Lila was inevitable. The tension had been building for so long, I could feel it in every fiber of my being. This wasn't just about reclaiming the house or my property. It was about reclaiming my life, reclaiming my voice. It was time to end the cycle. As I ran my fingers through my hair, I thought back on the betrayal, the years of silence, the way I had let Lila and the rest of the family walk all over me. All of it had brought me to this crossroads. I had spent so many years being the good daughter, the reliable one, the one who held everything together. But now, I was done. This was the day I would stand up, and it wasn't just for me. It was for the future I deserved. The family was expecting me to cave in, to let things go back to the way they were. But they were wrong. I wasn't going to be the passive observer anymore. I wasn't going to let them control the narrative. This was the moment when I would take everything I'd been through and finally use it to break free. Lila called me, her name flashing across the screen. My heart skipped a beat. I knew this was it. She was trying to manipulate me one last time. But I was ready. I answered the phone, my voice steady. "What do you want, Lila?" Her tone was sugary sweet, just like old times. "Eva, come on, let's talk. All this fighting, it's getting out of hand." I could hear the desperation in her voice. She was losing her grip, and she knew it. But I wasn't falling for it. "No more games, Lila," I said, cutting her off. "This ends now. I'm done letting you control everything, done pretending everything's fine. You've been lying to me, to Mom, to everyone. It stops today." I heard her exhale sharply. "You don't understand, Ava. You never did. All I've ever done was for the family." "Don't even try that," I shot back, my voice calm but sharp. "You've been using everyone, including me, and I'm done letting you get away with it." The day of the confrontation came quickly. We met at a small cafe, a neutral ground. I arrived early, my hands trembling slightly as I clutched the evidence in my purse. I had gathered everything: photos, messages, emails, proof of every lie, every deceit. I wasn't leaving anything to chance. Lila walked in, and for a second, I almost felt the familiar pull, the old dynamic between us. She smiled at me, the same smile she'd worn for years to hide her true nature. But I wasn't fooled anymore. "Eva," she said, her voice light, "I'm sorry. All of this has gotten out of hand." "No," I said firmly, standing up and meeting her gaze. "It's time to stop pretending. This is about accountability, about truth." Her eyes narrowed. She was trying to hold it together, but the cracks were showing. "You're making a huge mistake." I shook my head. "No. The mistake was letting you manipulate me for so long." The conversation took a dark turn when Lila, sensing she was losing control, tried to flip the situation on me. "You're just bitter," she spat, her voice rising. "You've always been jealous of me. You've always wanted what I have, and now you're trying to destroy everything." I took a deep breath, feeling the old anger rising but squashing it down. I was done with the emotional manipulation. "No, Lila, this is about you, about the things you've done, the things you've taken from me, from all of us." She scoffed, trying to play the victim. "I never did anything wrong. You've always been so overdramatic, Eva. I didn't ask for any of this." But I wasn't buying it. "You never had to ask for it. You took it. You used our family's love against us, and I'm done being your scapegoat." As the confrontation continued, the room seemed to shrink. The words we spoke were charged with years of resentment, years of hurt. But for the first time, I felt powerful. Lila's attempts to gaslight me were nothing more than hollow words now. The evidence I had collected was irrefutable. I have everything I need to prove what you've done, I said, pulling out the photos and documents from my bag. You can't hide anymore. Her face drained of color as she looked at the papers. For a moment, I saw her mask crack, and the woman who had always been in control was revealed for what she truly was. I didn't mean for it to get this far, Lila muttered, her voice shaky now. You never do, I said, my voice icy. But it's too late for regrets. The truth is out. The confrontation took a toll on me, but it also felt liberating. For the first time in years, I didn't have to hide, I didn't have to play along with her lies, and I could see the shift in the room. Some of the family who had been on her side were starting to look at her differently. Others still clung to her, refusing to believe what was right in front of them. But I was done trying to change their minds. I didn't need their approval anymore. I had my own truth, and that was enough. The final blow came when I walked out of the family home, the house deed clutched in my hand. I had won. Not just the deed, but my life. The toxic grip Lila had on me, on all of us, was finally broken. As I drove away, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. The kind of peace that comes from knowing you've done the right thing, even if it means walking away from everything you once held dear. Later, I watched as Lila's world came crashing down. The family, the friends, everyone she had manipulated, one by one, they saw her for what she truly was. It was strange, almost quiet. I wasn't gloating, I wasn't seeking revenge, I was just relieved. Lila was defeated, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of her anymore. As the dust settled, I realized that this was only the beginning. The life I had always dreamed of was finally within reach. The future was wide open, and I was ready to embrace it. But as I sat in my new apartment, feeling the weight of the past lifting, a letter arrived. I stared at the envelope in my hands, heart racing. I didn't know what it meant, but I knew one thing for sure. My life was about to change again. As I stared at the envelope, my heart raced. Was this the opportunity I'd been waiting for? Or was it another challenge I wasn't prepared for? Whatever it was, I knew I couldn't turn back now. The quiet hum of the city outside my window seemed distant as I sat alone in my new apartment, staring at the blank walls around me. It was hard to believe I had come this far. The house was mine now, but the weight of the journey still lingered. I could feel it in every corner of the room. This wasn't just a new space, it was a new beginning, and with it came the painful remnants of everything I had left behind. My family, the betrayal, the years of silence. I couldn't deny that they all had a place in my past, but they didn't have a hold on me anymore. The relief I had expected didn't come with a fanfare. It was quiet, like the settling dust after a storm. I wasn't angry. I wasn't elated. I was simply here. The house wasn't the victory. It was the freedom that came with it. I had broken free, but that didn't mean the scars didn't still linger. They did, but I was learning to live with them. I was learning to move forward. The silence in the apartment wasn't oppressive, though. It was peaceful in its own way. I'd been so used to noise, the noise of family arguments, the constant tension between Lila and me, the silent judgments from everyone around me. Now, I could breathe, but even in that silence, the reality of my choice weighed on me. There was no going back. I had made my stand, and I was standing alone. The knock at my door was a surprise. It wasn't someone I was expecting, and for a moment, I hesitated. Who could it be? My heart skipped when I saw the familiar face standing there. It was Aunt Linda, the one person in my family who had always supported me. She had been quiet through all of this, silent while everyone else had turned their backs. But now, she stood before me, her eyes filled with regret. "Ava," she said softly, "can I come in?" I stepped aside, feeling a rush of mixed emotions. Linda was the only one who had never wavered, the one person who hadn't bought into the lies. Her visit was unexpected, but in that moment, it felt like a quiet confirmation of everything I had done. She had always believed in me, and now she was here. We sat down, and after a few moments, she spoke again. I should have said something sooner. I've been watching from the sidelines, but I never stopped believing in you. I'm sorry for not speaking up when I should have. Her words hit me like a wave. I wasn't looking for validation, but hearing them from her made me realize something I hadn't before. I wasn't as alone in this as I thought. It's okay, I said, my voice softer than I expected. I didn't need you to speak up for me. I just needed to know someone saw it. Someone saw me. I always did, she replied, a small smile tugging at her lips. And I always will. That was it, the final piece of closure I needed. I didn't need my whole family to understand or accept me. Just knowing that one person, someone who had watched from the outside, had always known the truth, it was enough. The next morning, I woke up with a newfound sense of clarity. It wasn't just the silence in my new home or the support from Linda that gave me peace. It was the realization that I had the power to shape my future. The past was behind me, and it was time to move forward. I had always dreamed of doing something more, something outside of the constraints my family had set for me, and now I had the chance to pursue it. I had the freedom to chase what I truly wanted without the fear of disappointing anyone. I wasn't just rebuilding my life, I was creating a new one, and for the first time, it felt like I was living for myself. I took the first steps toward that future by diving into a career I'd always been passionate about. Helping others who had been in situations similar to mine. It wasn't just a job, it was a mission. I'd spent so many years trying to fix everything for everyone else. Now, it was my turn to help others fix themselves. It wasn't easy. There were moments when I doubted myself, moments when the past crept up and whispered its doubts in my ear. But I kept moving forward. I had to. The only way to grow was to keep walking, even when it felt like the ground beneath me wasn't solid. It wasn't just my career that was changing. Slowly, I started to rebuild connections. True connections. I met people who valued me for who I was, not for who they wanted me to be. I found new friends who encouraged me to be the best version of myself. For the first time in a long while, I felt safe in my own skin. I felt like I belonged, not because of my family, but because of my own choices. And for the first time, I didn't feel isolated. I didn't feel like I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders alone. These friendships, these new relationships, gave me something I hadn't had in so long: trust. Real, genuine trust. I didn't have to prove myself to anyone anymore. One day, I found myself standing in front of my old family home. It wasn't out of nostalgia or anger, but a sense of finality. I had made my decision. I had let go of everything that no longer served me. And now, I was returning something that had once been so precious to me: the house deed. I wasn't doing it for revenge. I was doing it as a symbol of the past I was leaving behind. It was a way of saying, I'm free. I didn't expect a response, and I didn't get one. I simply left the deed on the doorstep and walked away. That was it. The final tie was broken. I had no more strings attached to the family that had held me back for so long. The past was officially over. With the weight of the past lifted, I finally embraced the future. It was mine now. I wasn't afraid anymore. I had the confidence to take the next step, to make choices that were completely my own. And when a new opportunity came my way, a chance to travel, to experience the world in a way I never had before, I didn't hesitate. For the first time, I didn't have to look over my shoulder. I didn't have to worry about anyone's expectations. I was doing this for me, and that was enough. The phone rang as I was packing. It was my family. They had reached out, wanting to reconcile. They apologized for everything. But as I listened, I realized something. I had changed. I wasn't the same person who had spent years trying to make them proud. I wasn't the same person who had stayed quiet to keep the peace. Thank you, I said, my voice steady. But I've moved on. I'm not that person anymore. And I wasn't. The final moment of realization came when I received a letter, a new opportunity, a new chapter waiting to be written. It was unexpected, but in a way, I had been waiting for something like this, something to push me even further, to prove to myself that I was ready for anything. I stared at the envelope, my heart pounding. Was this the next challenge? Or was it the beginning of something even bigger? As I looked at the letter in my hand, my mind raced. This was a new challenge, one I hadn't expected. But it was just another opportunity to prove to myself that I could face whatever came next.